Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PokerDeals podcast. Today, we have an absolute living legend in the combined worlds of poker and streaming. There are literally no other words needed for his introduction other than say, we welcome to the podcast, Mr. Jaime Staples. We're pumped to have you, Jamie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I like the intro. You're pumping me up here early on a
Good.
Wednesday morning. I got a large coffee already in, and now I'm a living legend. So good start to the day, man. I have to be honest.
Perfect. So tell us, let's go to the beginning, right? How it's been a long time. It feels like you've been in streaming for so long. I mean, I just can't even remember where you weren't streaming. So that's how long it's been. I was a poker pro for 12 years or so, and I can always remember you being around. So how did you even get into poker?
So I've been playing poker since I was 18 years old, and that's kind of when I started. I wanted to be Tiger Woods growing up. That was the dream. And so I worked really hard on golf, and growing up in Canada, 5 months of the year, it's frozen. So hitting balls on the range, uphill both ways, all that. Realized I wasn't going to be Tiger Woods when I was about 18 years old. And I found poker sort of right around that time. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I don't have to compete with my muscles or my physical ability. I can compete with my brain. So that was just really intriguing to me. And then all the marketing of the very cool, sexy girls and money in Las Vegas and the dream, like that's an 18-year-old, it's amazing, right?
It's
Like,
true.
of course, who doesn't want that at
Yep.
18? So I got into the game and sort of started learning, bought a couple of poker books, found some poker training sites. And for the first 4 or 5 years of my poker career, played like small stakes, lived at home, went to school on the side to sort of appease the parents, and made enough money to survive. So that was kind of the start of my poker pro career, although it wouldn't be something I would really be happy with now. It was my only source of income.
Mhm.
Um,
But
and then I found
did you
streaming.
know did you know that you could I mean, when was the point where you became a hobby and then like, you know what? I actually can make money at this, or it's possible. Like, did you have people you looked up to, or was it just like you just zoned straight in and like, I'm gonna make this happen?
Yeah, it was 3 days. It was 3 days. It was like when I found the game, I was arrogant enough to just be like, "Oh, okay, well, this is what I'll
Mm,
do. I can beat it. Like,
okay.
I can win. Why not?" Like there was nothing rational backing up that belief. It was just naivete. Um, but thankfully and luckily, it ended up being a game you can beat,
Mhm.
and a game I was able to beat over time. So that was a stroke of good fortune. Um, but yeah, the transition was very short. And I told all of my friends, was very braggadocious, like, yeah, I play poker now. Like, it was just ridiculous, Like, I
Yeah.
was so proud of it. And so I think some of why I've been able to have longevity in this career
Mhm.
is in the beginning, I really didn't want to go back to my parents and my friends and admit failure, right? Like, failure wasn't really an option.
Same for me.
It
Yeah.
would be an identity crisis, right? So I had to work hard to like really sustain this image that I'd put out of myself in
Mhm.
my, uh, my feelings of inadequacy at the time, I guess. So yeah, that was my start. Streaming really changed things for me. I found Twitch. I started streaming on Twitch in October of 2014. So it's been 7.5 years now that I've
How
been
many
streaming.
years were you playing poker before you decided like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna start this streaming thing?
About 5 years ish.
Wow, okay, so it's quite
Yeah,
a while. So what
5 or 6 years.
what made you jump into that? Like, how did you just decide, you know what, playing poker's fine, but actually I feel like just trying this out?
The timing was great. I think that I decided at some point a few years before streaming that if I wanted to make poker a thing that I spent all my time on in my life, like it was going to be who I sort of became,
Mm,
I wanted to participate in the industry. I didn't just want to be a player. I also wanted to sort of build up the game and facilitate the game's success as well,
mhm,
just for like a larger experience than the individual one. So that was sort of in my mind. And I dropped out of school that September because I was like, okay, I'm really going to do this now. And then I saw a posting for Twitch Poker like beginning of October on the 2+2 forums. And I'm like, well, this is it. Like, this is my way to do something. I was thinking like, okay, maybe I'll make a little extra money. It'll help my win rate, and basically I'll be able to lift the game. And I knew within a week, I was like, this is a big thing, like
mhm.
this is going to change poker. This is my opportunity to like make something of myself in this game, and it sort of went ham from there.
And how long have you been streaming now? How many years?
7.5 years.
Wow, that is yeah, you're getting on there now.
Been a while. Yeah.
What would be your greatest piece of advice for anyone who thinks, you know what, I want to start streaming?
I think there's a lot of people that stream. So first of all, stream if it's something you think you'll enjoy. I wouldn't really approach streaming in terms of like, oh, this is what I need to do to make money. Like try and make it as something that you like. And most people, when they start streaming, they just do the same as everyone else, right? Like if you're a tournament player, you kind of just stream like Lex, or you stream like Sprague, or you stream like me. And I think, if you go head to head, like, why are they going to choose you over me? You need to be able to answer that question, right? So I think really lean into who you are as a person, which is scary, and you have to be vulnerable to do that. But like, figure out why they would want to watch you over someone else. And that can be your personality. That can be the sort of things you're doing. It's probably not your poker knowledge, right? There is some of the very best players in the game. Ben CB, raise your edge, streaming every Sunday, one of the very best tournament players in the world, right? You're probably not going to eclipse his ability to teach tournament poker. So it's got to be something else. Figure that out. And I think that's like what can really help you succeed in a stream. And we've also seen, by the way, we've seen sponsorships of streams that aren't huge strategy focused, like grinder focused, I'm the best poker player. They're very much based around like community and people playing mixed games, and just different things. So I would focus on that if you're getting into poker streaming.
There you go, guys. I think that's some pretty wise words. I think the same myself. You've really got to love what you do. You're never going to last a long time in anything if you're only doing it for money. There has to be more to it for sure. And I completely resonate with that. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned from streaming?
There's been a lot. I think there's a lot of skills that come from streaming that I've been lucky to learn. The whole presentation and content creation and business and marketing and all of that sort of stuff. But I think the biggest thing at the beginning was I was kind of self-conscious before I started streaming. I remember giving a presentation in college. It was a group business presentation, and this was a golf management program. Disaster. Our team was a disaster. We did no work at all. There was zero discussion. The plan was to go up there and wing it. And we're talking
about a great plan.
Awful, terrible. Like, yeah, it's a disaster of a class. Anyways, so we get up there, and I remember like being nervous and shaking in front of the class and sort of speaking in front of people because I didn't have anything to say, and so I was really scared. My voice was shaking, and so now I've streamed to 10,000 people at once before, and it doesn't hit me, right? So I think the exciting thing for me is when I turned on the camera, sort of being nervous about who I am and being self-conscious about who I am, and are people going to like me? Are they going to find this interesting? I found that I can just be myself, and there's people that are interested in that. Like, you are good enough as a person to just turn on the camera and share your story, and people are going to resonate. And like, that was such a great gift that I learned from streaming, that like I was adequate in a sense, right? Like just me. That was something that was really a great gift from streaming, and was so nice to figure out, just that increased confidence. So I would say that's pretty cool. I recommend streaming to people for that reason alone, just to try it out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, even the role I have now, I have to be in socials and do videos and streaming, and like it was something before that I just, I would never do these things. But I think, when you throw yourself out there and you just keep putting yourself on camera, you start to get used to it. You start to enjoy it. And I think it is really good for the personal growth. So I completely agree with all of that. How do you handle the downswings? I mean, you've played poker long enough now. You must have gone through a good amount of downswings. How do you handle those?
Yeah, I think it's just you go through pain. Like, you just suffer. Right? You suffer pain, and then you come out the other side, like with a loss of innocence and slightly sadder, like that the mystique and dream is kind of gone. You're not a child anymore, right? But then you come out like strong and able to stand it. So I think every poker player has that first downswing, and then they have that second downswing that's even worse than the first. You're like, I can't believe this. And then the third one that just goes on twice as long as that one. You're like, oh my God, this game is insane, right? And I think finances really play into it, right? Like, if you if poker is your only source of income, you're already a little skint and you're going through downswing, it's stressful. And like, you got to work hard. If you're streaming and like you have other sources of income and like you're going to be able to pay rent for the next couple of years, no matter what happens on the felt, it's not that big of a deal. So I guess like I've been able to get away from the downswing sweat. But early in my career, it was just like, it's painful. Like it just hurts. And it's kind of like the Rocky, like you just turn back into the punch and you keep trudging forward because that's all you can do.
Yeah, I think it's almost like the gym, right? You got to train, and unless you go through that pain and do it, you're not really going to be able to experience it.
Yeah.
Like you have to just go through it to get out on the other side. And yeah, any poker player will know this for sure. That's what you have to do, guys. Just keep going through the pain, as Jamie said. I completely agree. How much study do you do on the game? Like, are you studying? There's so many solvers and different programs. I mean, there's an endless supply of aids these days in the games. How do you feel about that? And do you study yourself? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I study every week. How much time depends on what's going on in life and sort of what's happening and how busy I am in various aspects. So I would say for the first several years of my poker career, my studying was Skype groups and then also video training. So I'd watch 2 hours a day of poker training videos every day. I'd fall asleep to it. I'd wake up to it. I'd watch it while I ate meals. Any downtime I was watching training videos. And it really helped to get a base of knowledge and information. This was back, a long time ago now, 2010, 2011, 2009. And then sort of in the middle of my streaming career, I found Raise Your Edge, worked with Ben CB, and really learned a ton, learned a lot better foundation there. And now sort of later on in my career, I can do some solver stuff, but I think most of what the solvers have outputted, there's also other applications that basically disseminate that information into useful formats, like paired with Raise Your Edge or various other things where you can quiz on it, right? You can make it easier than having to input the solves and run the solves overnight to get like good stuff. So now I do lessons. I do personal lessons with Nico from Raise Your Edge.
Okay.
Did some lessons with some other high stakes players. Sam Grafton, I did a 5-pack of lessons with 2 years ago. Talk with Ben CB. Personal lessons and then some of these tools that basically have the solves and just quiz them and run them. That's kind of my process as of now at a high level, but I wouldn't recommend that to a new player. I think like get in the videos, get in the videos, put in time with the videos, talk with your friends. When you're ready for the next level, then level up to some of the more raw outputs.
And what's your schedule like? I mean, online streaming, there's lots of people saying that this is a really dedicated schedule. To be successful in streaming, you've just got to put the hours in. How do you go about doing that?
It evolves depending on what's going on in life. As of right now, I've kind of got a like Friday to Sunday content creation thing going on. And then Monday to Thursday is poker learning. It's meetings. It's, keeping on top of the other content creation, podcasts like this. Got a couple business projects that I collaborate with and work with. So that's kind of the way that I'm separating it now. And then I'll have some off time somewhere in there on Wednesday or Thursday to chill out a bit. And that's the setup basically. So a lot of my career as a content creator has shifted, not from Twitch. Twitch is still home, but I've got YouTube, I've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all of these have their own communities, and all of them are growing. And so, been able to develop a system to where 3 days of Twitch content means a week worth of content on all these other platforms, so that it sort of continues going, and it's a little bit more sustainable for a long career. Twitch streamers burn out so quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm 7.5 years in, and if I go hard in the paint, like I'm not going to make it to 10 years. I want to sustain a long time here and have it be sustainable. So 3 days a week is about right, I think, for that.
Yeah. I've heard similar that it can get quite burnt out. Talk to us about PartyPoker. I mean, you were at Stars originally, right? And it seems like so many players they seem to move from PokerStars to PartyPoker. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I got a lot of love for both companies for sure. I'm really happy to be with PartyPoker. so I did the first 4 years of my career with Stars,
Hmm.
and that was sort of great. But I think as many as there's so many great people in Stars, I felt a little stagnant in that I didn't really
Okay.
have an opportunity to be as impactful as I wanted to be, right? I didn't feel like I had the level of support that I really needed.
Okay.
And Party Poker came in and said, "Hey, like we'll give you that support. We believe in you. We want you to be able to influence sort of the things we're doing with Twitch and streaming and all that, and we're going to support you." And it was just like there wasn't even really a decision for me at that point, right? It was just like a very clear, like this is the right direction to go. So as much as like I was sad to say goodbye to my teammates and the great work we did, it was very clear like this is the direction. There was no choice. And so Party Poker for the last 3 years has been great. Worked with Jeff Gross originally to develop Team Online and a streaming sort of strategy and content. And I think we've done some really cool things. And so, yeah, excited to just continue that journey, continue the progress and keep going.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. What have you got next? What's your goals?
So I think really the last 3 years has been figuring out how to balance, busy life and like make this sustainable.
Hmm.
I think for this year, it's continued progress in poker and that I'd love to be able to play like really high stakes, like high roller stuff, right?
Okay.
And I can bankroll wise.
Hmm.
And I think I'm like losing slightly in high roller stuff, probably. Like winning in, I
It's
seem to be
tough.
winning in the 1Ks.
It's
But
so tough these days. I mean, the
it
skill
is.
level now is just outrageous. I mean,
Yes.
it's tough.
Yes. But, I've got the resources. So I
Yep.
believe that I can do it. And I've got the time midweek to do it. So I want to do that. I want to continue on the content creation 3 days a week, continue to grow it and do everything I can. And then collaborate on some of these other projects I have going on the side. Like it's very much, I like where I'm at.
Mhm.
Like, let's just figure out how to sustain this and grow in every avenue over the next 3 years and continue forward. There isn't like a North Star of like, I need to get here. It's like, I feel like I'm there. Just keep going.
So you said you wanted to have an impact on the poker industry or environment as a whole, and not just be a player. Like, what are your plans in that sense? How do you plan to make that impact?
I think right now I'm doing the right things. I think, content, the creator economy and all of that is not even the future anymore. It's just the present, right? It's like the way in which the world interacts with hobbies and niches.
Hmm.
And poker is a really difficult one because there's all this regulation around poker because of its proximity to all these other casino games that are, not as amazing and more harmful than poker is, right? So it's kind of like those casino games are really lucky to have poker, basically, as part of their
It's
offering
a funny way of
under
looking
the
at it.
umbrella. Yeah, no, I mean they are like we are the best part of it, and it's not close.
Okay.
So we need to figure out how to maneuver creating interesting stories about the beauty of poker, like the amazing aspects of this game, and showcase it in a way that is responsible in that we are sort of grouped in with all of these other things. So it has to be compliant. It has to be appropriate. You have to ensure that the language that you're using is reasonable and respectful, and that you ensure that people are gaming responsibly and gambling responsibly. And it needs to be everywhere, right? Because poker is for everyone of legal age,
Mhm.
right? And so you got to figure out how to share poker story on TikTok. How are you going to do that, right? How are you going to do that in a compliant way? So for me as a poker player, like my passion is exposing this game to young people, legal age people, and showing them the amazing parts of it, the interesting parts about it, because the impression of poker, as you know, and everyone knows that plays poker, is like half the world it just thinks it's like blackjack. Like you count cards. Like they don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you just lose the casino and that's it. They don't understand.
Yeah.
So someone's got to tell that story, and I think that's the right thing for me to do for now. Who knows in 10 years? I don't know what I'll be doing. Maybe it's the same or maybe it's something different, but I think this is right for now.
Hmm. And what would you say the future of poker is?
Could go a lot of ways, you know. It's going to be interesting because technology is moving very quickly. We have decentralized worlds sort of taking over online. I think live poker is showing a lot of growth and success in a lot of areas, specifically in the US, doing really well.
Mhm.
And so I think it will just continue to grow and succeed. I think online poker, it really depends a lot on regulation and legislation in various markets. And it depends on cryptocurrency, if I'm honest. I think that we're seeing a shift towards decentralized applications and decentralized ownership. And so how do governments react to that in regards to, do they try and legislate that, regulate that? You know, we've seen action over the last several years, high stakes action push from regulated high stakes online sites to unregulated apps, right?
Mm.
And that will filter its way down if things continue to get more and more restricted. So as a party poker representative, right, like Entain and Party Poker follow all the rules. They're very compliant, and that's something that they believe in. As a poker player, like I worry that things will get too restrictive and the action will just be pushed offshore, unregulated on apps, and that's probably not a good thing. So online poker is a question mark for me, but I'm along for the ride. Let's see what happens.
It's going to be a fun one, whatever happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us, what do you do outside of poker?
I have a few hobbies. So I work on some business projects in sort of collaborating with that aren't necessarily directly related to poker, like some esports and some
Nice.
NFT, some fintech, like that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. So do a bit of business stuff. I like to read a lot. I've been doing a lot of reading, really enjoy literature and sort of getting into that, and art and philosophy and that sort of stuff. So I like that. I like walking, hiking, exploring cities, man. Love exploring cities, just checking it out, walking
What's
around.
your favorite city?
Well, Montreal is amazing. I live here right now, and it's just a special place. Like, it is really unique. There's nothing like it in North America. But you know, I'm a fan of the big ones. I'm a sucker, dude, for like New York City and London and Paris. It's just like, dude, it just hits me. Like, I am a sucker. I love it. I love it. I love big city hype, action, art, culture stuff. So like that sort of thing. And then I'm engaged to my beautiful fiance who lives here with me in Montreal. So we do things together. We play Valorant sometimes, play video games, walk around, hang out. That's life outside poker for me.
Nice. Seems like you have a lot going on. You seem to have a very active mind, Jamie. Would you say
Too
that
much.
contributes to your success in poker, or?
I think so. Like, I think I probably have some ADHD kind of stuff going on where it's
Okay.
always firing on a lot of cylinders. So I think that can be a benefit if you sort of learn to manage that and stay organized and keep on top of things and execute and follow through on things. It can be a detriment as well,
Mhm.
for sure. But I think, yeah, the overactive brain kind of thing, I think helps with pattern recognition and helps with cognitive sort of like
Mhm.
ability to see the game and see range versus range sort of dynamics. Like, just being able to go down the rabbit hole and like explore that in your head, I think helps in poker.
Oh, it must do. I mean, that's putting people on range is going to help massively, I guess. And if you can do that quickly, then you're definitely going to have an advantage. How do you keep the negative sides under wraps?
Like, how do I keep the negative aspects of that out of my life?
Yeah, or like, how do you keep it, like, you're in a final table, how do you stop it from boiling over or having any impact?
Well, execution is interesting in poker because, so I come from golf again, right? And in golf, there's this whole thing of like a pre-shot routine. You go through the same routine and you hit the shot, and then you watch the shot, and then your focus is very much on the next shot. Like, that's the next 3 minutes of your life. In poker, there is very little execution aspect to that. It's like you kind of just click a button, right? So you make a decision and then you click a button. There isn't like a swing that you need to execute, like some elaborate, complex physical movement. It's a brain movement that you need to execute. Yeah. So I guess really it's just all about like keeping a rational mind in the heat of the battle. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel as if like an overactive mind really takes away from that. I think it allows you in these exciting moments, like a lot of clarity to where you can see all the pictures. You can see all the aspects that you need to consider, all the variables, and you can come to a conclusion. And then the execution, I've never really understood the struggle with execution in poker because it's just
But do you
a
have a
decision.
process? I mean, do
Yeah.
you have a process like this is what I think about first, that's next, that's next, that's next, or is it just like you've done it so often now that it just all comes to you intuitively, or like how do
Yes,
you
I
think about
think
it?
so. I think so. Intuitively, and I've had some discussions with people about that exact idea, which
Mhm.
is, maybe someone should do this. I don't have the time to do it.
Okay.
So someone else can do it. But I'd love to see a flow chart of poker decision. Every variable, right? Like essentially, if you go through this flow chart
Mhm.
in this order, you will come to the right decision. But as a poker player, you think about all the variables that will be in that flow chart. It will be immense. It'll be insane, right?
Yep.
Like there is potentially 100 different variables that you might have to consider there. And like if this, then this, like it's wild. So I don't know if anyone has developed a systematic system of going through that whole process and actually executing. I think people pull from whatever they think is most valuable in a moment. So that just comes intuitive to me in terms of like I'm thinking about what I think is the most important to think about. I'm not thinking about all of it because I don't have a flow chart of all of it. But it'd be really interesting to see an accurate game theory approved poker decision from top to bottom where you consider everything. That'd be amazing. I'd love to see that. I don't have that system. It's just like that's probably important. And I'll think about that,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You try to prioritize to think about the most important aspects during any hand, right? And
Absolutely.
I definitely think, as a logical person, I kind of go with that first. But then there's some moments where, usually the marginal decisions, where just intuitively you're like, I'm not really sure what to do here, and it's because it's the marginal decisions. And then you're like, okay, guess I've got to click one of the buttons now.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, absolutely. And then these fringe sort of things start coming to you, and then usually one of them resonates enough to where you're like, okay, well,
Yeah,
I'll make that decision then. Just like timing or country of origin or bet sizing on the turn is like kind of small, like these really fringe things where you think
yeah.
it just ticks things one way or the other and you go for it.
Let's go with the country of
Yeah.
origin. That's an interesting one. What tendencies have you seen from different origins?
I think they're very loose correlations, right? Like
Okay, okay.
they're really not, it's not a very good tell.
Yep.
Mostly people just use it as an excuse as to why they dislike a country, which I think is trash as a human, but also trash as a poker player. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not that interesting. But I think there's loose correlations. For example, I think
Mhm.
some countries are more emotional culturally, right?
That I agree with. Yeah.
And you'll see it in Brazil. I think is a good example. Italy is a good example, right? I would say like Turkey, right,
Uh-huh.
is a good example of like more emotional based responses. Whereas when I think of like very sort of not emotional and rational responses, I would think Germany, I would think Austria, right, like very sort of regimented. Um, when I think of passivity, I think of Canada. Sorry, shots fired. But I think Canadians are sometimes not aggressive enough or a little bit too passive. So I think sometimes you can see that a little bit more calling station aspect.
But
Uh,
how'd you pick up on this online? Like, if you have, the more emotional cultures, like you say, I mean, live, I kind of, understand maybe you can physically see it, but in an online
mm.
game, how do you pick up on that emotion?
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I think the tell sucks, right? Because
Okay.
it's like you may think that because a culture is a little bit more emotional in an emotional spot where you think people overbluff, you might think an extra 0.5% chance
Yeah.
that Brazilian player is going for the triple barrel bluff here, as opposed to like a Canadian. And is that really useful? Well, only if you're exactly on the line and
Yeah.
you have nothing else, which you have 100 other things to consult, right? So that's kind of the reason. It's a last resort kind of thing.
Okay.
But at a poker table, you see old man Charlie, right? You can make a pretty strong read that when you get 3-bet by the 78-year-old,
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, he doesn't have king 10 suited. Like, he just definitely doesn't have
Yeah.
king 10 of hearts. You can be a lot more specific. So
Yeah.
it's just it's a small nudge. It's just a dash of spice. That's all it is. It's not the
Yeah.
meat and potatoes, man.
No, of course. Something to convince yourself to go either way. The brain's trying to
Mhm.
find a pattern of some sort, right? So
Yes.
what other tells, like, would you say are more prevalent when playing online that you're seeing in your games?
Bet sizing is the best one. I mean, bet sizing, it's not even close. Like sometimes people take bet sizing decisions that just make absolutely no sense in certain lines. You know, they'll be on a board to where it just doesn't make sense to see a big bet or a small bet with a lot of hands, and it just becomes so much more likely that you're seeing a bluff because the logic, like they're representing such a small amount of hands when they choose the bet sizing. So that's the one I definitely pay attention to. You know, when it comes to like a river decision, you can often just think about what was their bet sizing decision on the flop and the turn. And you just know sometimes, like, okay, people are never betting big on the flop with this hand. And they're saying they have this hand on the river. But the flop and the turn makes that almost impossible unless they're crazy, which sometimes they are. But most of the time they're not. And so bet sizing is the one to pay attention to, and the logic behind that.
Anything else?
I mean, you can get sort of like subtle timing tells at times, not when people are playing like peak Sunday 12 tables, but you know, it's small stakes. When down to the final table or something, you can get a little bit of timing tell kind of stuff. And then just like previous hand information where you get the sense of whether someone is willing to rumble or not, you know, like are they ready to go? Or are they just like really patient? Like you can get a sense sometimes. So those things I'd say.
Search those average stakes, you know, on SharkScope. See, it's the final table of the Sunday Million. They've got average buy-in of $1. It probably means quite a lot, right?
See, that's the one. I haven't used that one before. Some people use that one of like the history. Yeah, no, I haven't used that one. You can usually get a sense for that, though. I think the click a deal button is another tell. Sorry to all deal makers out there, but like, you know, the sharks are looking to play, right? And if they're at a final table, the sharks have probably been at a similar size final table before. It's nothing new for them. So the make a deal button, I think, is another one where you can mark like, okay, they're uncomfy. They want to chop up some money here.
And how do you go about final tables? You know, especially if it's on stream. Did you find that it affected you in the early days? You know, especially if you get to final tables with lots of money and then everyone's watching, it's kind of like, I better perform here, or or you're mixed between trying to please the crowd and try and make the money. Like, how do you see it?
Yeah, so I think early in my career there were some times where I wouldn't make a play because I was afraid that it looked bad, and so I've had to learn to sort of like completely lose respect for people's poker opinions in the Twitch chat. Not that some of them aren't better than me, but like I don't know if they're better, right?
Yeah. And
I can't know in the time. So like, yeah, some of you might be better at poker and I might have just made a mistake, but I can talk to Ben CB, right? Like I can send a text to Pads or to Sam Grafton or someone like that, right? Like I have the experts that I can talk to. So I'm just gonna pretend like you guys know nothing, and that's the best way for me to proceed, right? Sorry, no offense. So I've been able to develop that kind of thing. And final tables have evolved in terms of like final table strategy has completely evolved over the last 6 or 7 years. Like we were just a disaster. Like we were just really terrible at understanding sort of how to play final tables. And I was certainly in that group. And I think I've gotten a lot better recently at sort of understanding. I mean, for example, you shouldn't be playing the same calling ranges in the big blind at a final table as you would be with 200 left in the tournament. Like you're calling a lot tighter, right? A lot tighter. And you're doing actually more 3-betting at a final table than you would be early in the tournament. Yep. So there's like 2 little tidbits of like completely different strategies. And I was just playing it the same, but like considering the pay jumps, but I wouldn't really adjust my ranges. Just my call off ranges and my shoving ranges. So that's changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, are there any players that just always cause you trouble, or you're like, you know what, I'm sick of these guys?
I think early in my career, someone that always got me was Tonka.
Okay.
Parker, Talbot, Tonka, because he's so good socially. He really understands human beings and he understands leveling extremely well, right? Like he's socially, he just gets it, right? He's really good at sort of games like that.
Mhm.
And he was like a 5K sit and go grinder, right? And I was like, my biggest buy-in would be like maybe 320 during the week early in my streaming career, right? So he was just a much better technical poker player than me, and then also from a leveling war, like he was leveled ahead. So I could never beat him, and there's obviously the stream dynamic of like playing big hands on stream and like wanting to have a little bit of banter. You go next level. Is he going next level, or is he just being standard, right? Like that whole thing. And yeah, I didn't win very many of those early. And then, it's also a competition, streamer versus streamer, right? So that
Good
he gets me a
rivalry.
lot. Yeah, he gets me a lot for sure. But nowadays, I'm not worried. We can run it. It'd be no problem.
And how do you go about deal making on a final table? Is it something you don't look at, or are you willing to chop it up?
Like earlier in my career, I would definitely look at a deal, and I would take a deal if I thought it gave me more money than I was due in equity, right? So if I thought the whole final table was better than me, then I'd take a, ICM chop or whatever. And if I thought I was better than them, then I'd ask for more money. I very much view deal making at a final table as we are at war. We are in a battle, and like there is no room for friendship. There's no room for like sort of letting someone get off easy. I view deal making as an extension of the game, and I'm going to fight for every cent. Some people really hate that, and they think you're being greedy or whatever. I don't care. It's part of poker. Like we fight, right? Nowadays, I got to gamble for the stream, dude. I think honestly, if I was playing heads up for $500,000, I think I'd run it on the stream. It's just like the story is too important to me now, to where it's like I'm not going to deprive you guys of this moment, win or lose. We need to live the drama. We play for it. Let's go. Like I would shop with my brother probably, and then leave a little money on the side. That's it. Play everyone else.
Wow, it's going to be a bit annoying for people to go onto the final table with you then if they want to if they want to make any
It's
deals.
not going to happen.
Yeah,
We're running it. Yeah, we're
you've already
playing.
stated it. We're running it. It's a good strategy to have. Like people, they just know that you're going in with that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it would be tough if someone was like, I'll give you 50K, like a big final table, $1 million for first or something. Well, I'll give you 50K extra to chop up. If I was getting a lot over EV, I'd have to think about it, but that's not happening. I've got too much of an ego to give anyone that much. I don't think anyone's being like going to pay that much, to get out of the battle. It's not happening.
What have been some of your best heads up battles?
I played one recently in a tournament that I won. I forget how much it was for. It was either 40K or 60K or something like that recently. That I won on stream. I think it was a 530. Such a fun tournament. And I found this spot where I wasn't sure whether I was going to value bet on the river. And I decided, no, they have all these hands. I have to value bet on the river. And then they check raise shoved.
I saw this one, yeah.
Yeah. And then I went through the logic. I was like, wait a second. Wait a minute. Let's think about it. They don't have this. They don't have this. And it was a sizing thing again. Of like, they wouldn't choose this sizing with this. I think I have to call. And it's for my tournament life. Heads up in this tournament. It's a knockout. It's a big moment, big spot. Caught the bluff with a huge bluff catch, and the tournament was basically over the next hand, and that was it. So that was a huge one. I think early in my career, I won the big 109 on the day that I signed with PokerStars for my first sponsorship.
Wow, what a bang! You can't even write that as a story, eh?
It was ridiculous. Like a bunch of the PokerStars people were in the chat at the time because it was a new Twitch signing, it was a new thing. A bunch of people, the company didn't know what it was. Lee Jones was in there, right? Like it was a big moment. And I just win the biggest tournament on the schedule at the time, live in front of 4,000 people. And it was just like, dude, this is a fairy tale. Like this has been my dream since I was, 18. And I did it, and I won the flagship on the launch day. It was like, man, that was special. And I don't know if I beat D Peters in one of these big 109s to win heads up by sucking out several times, but it doesn't matter. I don't know if it was that one or the next one, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds really awesome. I remember the Ace-9 one. I saw it, and I remember you pausing. Like, this is what I don't think enough players do. They don't go through that logical process because you really looked like you were going to fold, and then you were like, wait, let's think this through. And then
Yeah.
literally, and then everything just made sense, and I could see it myself when I was watching it. I was like, yeah, this makes total sense. You have to call it. It's so difficult to do, especially for the amount of money, and it costs you all the chips, and then being right in those moments, I guess, is just such an elating feeling.
Yes. You know who set me right on that one was Sam Grafton. Got to give some credit here. He was the one that told me hand off the mouse, right? Like
Yeah, I
these
say that
big
to
moments, hand
everyone.
off the mouse. Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean,
Yeah,
he just take the time. Don't be impulsive. Relax. Think it through.
I
You got
tell that.
time.
Yeah, you do. You do. That's the thing. I tell that to everyone. Like, it's so easy to get into autopilot mode and just reactive. I mean, even for simple hands like aces, that you're going to play, you still need to think about
Mm.
all the ranges. Like, what's the max EV here? Not just click the button and raise. You've really got to think about things a lot more. And I definitely agree with take the hand off the mouse button. It was something I installed in the players when we were staking years ago. Definitely
Mm.
good advice there. So let's go for what did your parents think of poker? I mean, that's not a usual career choice, right? When you started.
Yeah, my dad's a prof, retired prof from the University of Lethbridge, and my mom was a teacher.
Okay.
So two teachers, both musicians, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be a poker pro. Dropping out of school. So there, like I think a natural level of concern, like, oh God, like hope he's okay and this is a phase and everything's fine. They, like most people, didn't understand the difference between poker and blackjack and roulette. It was just a casino game and not really an aspect of their life that they're really engaged with personally. So in the beginning, concerned, like, hope you're okay and like,
Mhm.
be responsible and uh privately, I think probably feeling some sense of like shame or disappointment. But then, parents are risk averse and results oriented, right? Like
So true.
they don't want to see their offspring go through pain at all. So when I got some recognition for my stream and a sponsorship, it was like, oh, okay, that's some like stamps of public approval. Like, okay, he's actually doing something here, cool, Um,
Did
and
it
then
really
when
take
it,
that long? Because I mean, that was what, like 5 years or so until you were streaming, and then
yeah, I mean, they were supportive and they loved me and they let me, live at home and go to school and then play poker on the side, and there was no problem there, right? But I think they just didn't really understand it.
yeah,
But then when I signed my sponsorship, which was 5 or 6 months into streaming, and they saw me stream and saw a couple hundred people watching, they were like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then as I had more success, and had some big tournament runs, and they I think became kind of proud of it and really interested, and they watch my stream now a bunch. They watch my brother Matt's stream, and like, so they're big fans and supporters. But I think that it just took them a second
mhm.
because they didn't really understand it, and I think that's natural. I'd probably be the same way if I had kids and they were into some sort of fringe activity that seemed risky from the outside. Like I would, I get that. So
Yeah, for sure. What would you do if you didn't play poker?
um don't know, a couple things. I kind of want to do everything. And so there's a lot of things I could do. I think I'd still do some business stuff on the side just to generate income. I've thought about writing a little bit. I kind of like reading a lot, and I have something in the back of my mind that I'd like to uh, write some books and or contribute some way that way, with my thoughts or my way of thinking about things, not necessarily in poker, but probably like society, culturally kind of stuff. So I might write a little bit, and then content creation, I think is something that I know how to do well and have done a lot. So that's very like practical, right? Content creation, I can earn money and I can share a story. Um, Writing and reading is really interesting to me, and I think that, and maybe politics later. Some of that stuff might be where my life goes when I'm 40, 50, 60, but I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm 30. Like it just changes year to year, right? So who knows?
Cool. It seems like I can go, like we were speaking about the hands before, in many different directions. So it'll be interesting for someone to make that tree and see where we go.
No, no clue, dude. I have no idea how people decide who they are or what they're going to do in their life. It just seems like there's
True.
80 possibilities. I don't know.
Mhm.
How do you decide?
I think everyone goes to that, right? I don't think everyone knows exactly what they're going to do through every part and stage of their life. Like you always get to these kind of crossroads, and then you start to have to think about everything and go like, okay, which direction am I going to go this time? And then you're good at that for a while, and then you get to that point again. It's like, okay, what shall I do now? You always have these like reflection moments, and I don't think anyone should
Yeah,
feel bad for not knowing what they want to do at any point. I think it's just part of being human, to be honest.
I agree. Well, and why? And why, right? Like I think back to my start of poker, and a lot of it was in service of becoming someone, becoming a person that did something in the world and made a mark and was impactful. And then in pursuit of the dollars, right? So like if I have fulfilled some level of those needs, there's an element of like, well, why am I going to do what I'm going to do next? And that confuses me to all hell. I have no idea. Like I could do all these things. The why, I don't know. I don't know, man. You tell me. Why should I? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's end with a rapid fire fun questions. Okay. I'll ask you some quick questions and let's see what we get. All right. Are you ready, Jamie?
Ready.
All right. Let's do it. Favorite poker player?
Daniel Negreanu.
Okay. Favorite tournament and why?
Oh. EPT Prague, because it was my first time in Europe and it's romantic.
Prague is really awesome. What do you love the most about poker?
The ability for any two human beings to communicate, aside from socioeconomic class, society, culture, language, doesn't matter. Two people, one-on-one, understanding each other.
Yeah, level playing field. It's so true. What are you best at in poker?
Not tilting.
What are you worst at?
Getting very nitty gritty into specific details on hands, i.e., on this structure, we need to do this. But then if the pair goes from 5-5-7 up to like 9-9-7, then everything completely changes. Like minutia of strategy changes on small differences in board textures.
Okay, at least you know. The best thing about being a poker player?
Freedom.
Okay, and the worst thing?
It's difficult, and the difficulty is lack of structure. There's sort of no pre-described path, so you need to figure it out yourself. So difficult because of it's an open-ended book. Like you have to figure it out.
Yeah. What's the best book you've read lately?
I'm reading Infinite Jest right now, which is like a meme of a book by David Foster Wallace. But I love him as an author. I've never read anything like his stuff. It's just so biting and raw and aggressive. It's dope, dude. There's nothing like it. So
Cool.
David Foster Wallace.
Great review there. What's your favorite movie?
I mean, probably Rounders. Like Rounders does this amazing thing where it captures the emotion and the feeling of being a poker player for the first time. Like, oh my God, dude. It's like you're living this amazing, like kind of shifty, like weird hours. You're different than everyone else. Like it just speaks to the core urge of like, I don't want to follow your rules. I'm a poker player. Love it.
Okay. Favorite place in the world?
Montreal.
Wow. Home is where the heart is. Tell us something most people don't know about you.
I don't know if I keep anything private. Okay, here's the thing. I've been working on an NFT platform, not project, but platform for the last 8 or 9 months.
Nice.
And that's something that will come to fruition this year. So I haven't been public about it.
Or yeah, right now.
It's a marketplace. It's a project, but not in terms of like, here's my new 10,000 NFT thing.
Oh no, I get it.
It's like it's a new
You
How
can
do I
keep it a
describe
secret if you
this?
like it. It's okay.
Yeah,
Or is
no,
it
I'm
just
trying,
too
I'm
much to
trying to figure out how to. It's kind of like a new application of NFTs, and
Okay.
it's a marketplace and an application to do that. So I haven't bought any NFTs. I haven't been engaging in the social chatter, but I follow NFTs a lot,
Yeah.
and I think it's super interesting. And it's going to be it's been a part of what I do, and it'll be a part of what I do going forward. So that's coming up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it's something we're definitely going to see a lot more of, and that space is for sure booming. Okay, what was your best life moment?
Dude, this is so unfair. You can't do this
You
because
have
I
too
got
much.
engaged in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris to my
Wow.
fiance, right? And I love her, and it's like that's really important, right?
Yeah.
But there's also other things, right?
Yeah.
Like winning the
Do a
big
top five.
109.
It's okay. Let's blend them
Okay,
all
all
together.
right.
Yeah, let's
This
do
is
it.
not very rapid fire, but I'm not good at this.
That's
Like
cool.
streaming, you have a 4-minute delay. You got to elaborate for like, you can't just give one line answers. It doesn't work. Winning the big 109 on the day of my first poker sponsorship, that was,
Nuts.
yeah, the dream. So I think that is a really big one as well. Winning the ultimate sweat bet with my brother Matt, the way in after a year of grueling weight loss and weight gain and training.
Yeah, this was crazy. I mean, let's take a minute here because I think this is
Yeah.
worth it. Okay, so for those that don't know, just briefly explain the prop bet that you did.
Sure. Yeah. So I booked a bet with my brother Matt against a friend of ours named Bill Perkins. We're doing a project called Streamboat where he has a place in the Virgin Islands. He's a very successful guy. He's got a boat. And we would stream on the boat. And that was sort of the novelty. And it was fun. Like it's amazing to play poker and it was just fun. It's cool. You got to believe me. You're sitting down there, like looking at each other on this, like boat, like what, we are two prairie boys from middle Canada. Like, what are we doing here? This is absurd. So anyways, we're down there and we're streaming. I'm a really big guy at the time. I think I was 306 pounds is what I weighed in a week later. So I was probably 310, 315 at the start of the bet. And my brother Matt was very small. I think he was 130, 140, like really skinny. Someone in the Twitch chat said, it'd be amazing if Jamie and Matt were the same weight. Bill Perkins said, I'll give you 50 to 1. Jeff read it off. Bill Perkins said, I'll give you 50 to 1 on a bet, which means, we risk 1,000 to win 50,000, for example. So I look at Matt and I'm like, sorry, bro. We don't really have a choice here. 50 to 1. We run it. Like, I don't care what it is. Great odds. Yeah. And so I turned to Bill and I said, how much can we bet? And he said, 3K. It's the max. I said, well, should we do it? And Matt thought about it. He's like, yeah, all right. And that was it. We shook the hand. And the next year of our life was insane.
But did you speak together about like who would lose what or do what? Or is it just like you both just agreed to do it? I mean, was there any kind of...
We talked after.
Wow. Okay.
About it, yeah.
How did you convince him? Because he had to put on a lot of weight, right? Like...
He did. I mean, his plan, he was obviously going to put on some muscle, but he also had to bulk a lot of fat. Obviously, you can't gain, 60 pounds of muscle. That doesn't happen. Yeah. Doesn't exist. It's possible. So he had to put on a lot of fat as well. But I think it was like, I'm assuming both of our heads were firing on the same cylinder, which is, it doesn't matter if we win or lose here. This is an interesting story. Right?
Okay.
Like we are content creators.
Yeah.
We are now embarking on a 1-year high stakes dollar journey against a very successful multimillionaire. Like it, like we could pay 50,000 for this story and it would still make us money. Like we have to do this. There is no choice here. So that was the immediate thought. And we ended up winning, which was insane. It was a very difficult year. It was insane. I think we lived in 7 or 8 countries during the year as well. So it was just a whirlwind of like, where are we? What are we doing? I'm so hungry. And he's like, I'm so full. I need to sleep again.
It's the polar opposites every day.
Yeah. But we won it. So we weighed in at, I think it was 188.4, I think was the number. And we shipped the bet and we shipped 150K. And so that was like an insane special journey that I think back to, and I'm just like, that was definitely the most insane
Yeah.
like year ever. Like it's
Because
just
it's
crazy.
so long as well, right? It's not just one game in poker. You play for a day or two. Like it literally was just a year focus of we've got to do this.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, and like a pressure cooker in terms of well, there's the expectations of the people that are watching the bet, it determines sort of who you are in their eyes. And then you have a content career and you have responsibilities to sponsors and then you've got the travel and I started a relationship midway through. Um and like I would have been okay losing the bet, but 75K to Matt at the time was a big deal. So as a brother, I felt like I wasn't allowed to lose the bet, basically. Like I had to come through and win for him in that he's going through a lot of pain and like this makes a big difference in his life. So it was do or die time, basically.
Did you guys just agree, like, okay, we're both going to aim for this weight? And did it ever change? Or was there any point where one of you like, look, this is too hard for me. You need to come down or you need to go up? Or was it always just, because I mean,
I had to go a little extra.
you had to
Yeah.
go
The target was like, I think 195 was the target. But at the beginning, it was just go as hard as possible.
Yeah.
Like we don't know yet. We're so far away. Just like
just go
make
hard.
progress as aggressively as you can. And towards the end, the plan was 195. We had a trainer through the whole thing, Mike Viconti, who we linked up with 1 or 2 months in, and he flew out with us and did some things with us and stuff. But towards the end of the bet, this is a part that hasn't really been talked about a ton.
Okay.
Matt's allergic to nuts, like deathly allergic to nuts. And so he had a Mr. Juice smoothie from the St. Julian's in Malta. This is where the end of the bet was
this
taking
is
place.
not a good sell for the Malta.
I mean, Mr. Juice is beautiful and amazing, and they were very apologetic, and they actually changed what they did after this happened to where they changed their processes. So I like Mr. Juice, but he had a sip of a smoothie that had some peanut butter or something in it and went red as a lobster. Whoa. And had to go to the hospital in Malta. And this is, like 10, 11 days before the weigh-in. So I get the phone call. Matt's on the way to the hospital. He's having an allergic reaction. I don't know if he's going to be dead when I get there. Like he's definitely allergic. Wow. And he just had a sip. So this is emotionally, we're both strung out. I've been starving myself for 3 months and hiking 3 days a week. He's been bulking food. And like, I'm not sure if I'm going to find a dead brother in 30 minutes. I drive to the hospital. Thankfully, he's in the waiting room. He is red as a lobster, puffed out, but he's breathing okay and fine. He just had a sip. So it didn't affect his, his life. But, I mean, food was very difficult following that, like emotionally and mentally, right? Like you go through this process of having food and having this like anaphylactic kind of experience.
Yeah, you don't.
Like you can't mash food. Like it's terrifying. You want to do anything but eat food.
Yep.
So that was basically the plateau. I think that morning he weighed in at 189. And he had to fight really hard to even stay at that 188, which means that I had to drop about, I think it was like more than we planned, basically.
Big brother to the rescue time.
To get there, yeah. But the emotional trauma of that event for both of us when we were already so strung out was like, oh, man, just such a stressful experience. It was too much, and then our plane journey got delayed. It took 36 hours. And then the plane guy that we tried to book through, like he flaked into the last minute, like 2 hours before our plane was supposed to take off. We didn't have tickets. And it was just like, dude, can we just get this thing over with? Like, this is a disaster.
Now. We're so over it.
So winning that and the flurry after that of like sort of, attention of like Men's Health called us up and a bunch of radio and Good Morning America. And like, it was just crazy, man. I mean,
super fun. I mean,
it was fun.
Must have brought you guys so close together as well. Like when you go through something like that, it's like, you're really a team.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we had our other brother with us as well, who was filming this for a vlog the whole time. So it was like the three of us. My sister, unfortunately, wasn't there, but and the changing backdrop of Vienna and then Croatia, Bucharest, Wales, Costa Rica, Malta, and then Reno. You spent about 2 months or a month and a half in each of them, and then the Virgin Islands escaped because of a hurricane. Like, it's just really special, dude. It was like a ridiculous thing. So those would be the top 3 moments, anyways. To get back to your rapid fire question,
It was a good tangent. I like it. I mean, I think it's really interesting to hear these stories. Like I said, you've been in poker such a long time. Like it's really, really fun to see what poker can do for someone, and not just necessarily being. You don't have to be the world's best. You can stream, you can content create, you can go in these other directions. And I think as long as you love what you're doing, like you said before, then why not just focus on that?
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Well, it has been absolutely fantastic to speak to you, Jamie. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. And we really look forward to see you on the streams, more big wins, and and the NFT project and all the things you got going on.
I'll be out there. It was a pleasure. Thanks to you. Thanks to all of your fans. And if you guys want to check me out, I'm PokerStaples all over the internet. So if you're here for the poker, check me out. PokerStaples, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, etc. Or Jaime Staples, Jaime. That's I have usually both handles. Jaime Staples is kind of me, the person, and PokerStaples is the poker. So check it out.
Check it out, guys. Lots of fun content. I've watched it all myself, and it is really entertaining. So I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by, and we'll see you all soon. Take care, everyone.